Now it's time that I want to talk to you about what we call the backpack principle. Now in cognitive behavioral therapy, this is an extremely important principle, and if you don't take anything else from this entire course, it's my hope that you can walk away with this as being something profound to learn from and grow from. To understand the backpack principle, you have to understand a concept with trauma called big T's and little t's. Now, what's a big T? A big T is a traumatic event in your life that everybody can understand is traumatic. We are talking about massive accidents, unexpected tragedies, the death of a loved one, something huge. Now, everybody has big T's in life. It's a part of life. And the only way to deal with these things is by going through them, and they cause a massive emotional change in us. I want you to take a second to write down some big T's that you know have happened in your life. Go ahead. Now that you've identified your big T's, I want to talk to you about little t's. Now, what's a little t? A little t is something in your life that caused an emotional impact that seems so small, no one else can really understand why it was such a big deal to you. But for you, it really meant something. Let me give you an example. My first year as an acting student in college, we had this thing that was called a crazy competition. That's where we came in and had to be as crazy as we could, and the craziest person was the winner.
So if y'all want to get crazy, we can get crazy.
Well, I did it and I won. After I won the competition, the professor looked at me and said, "That is somebody who loves to be on stage." And I overheard this girl in class who was very popular lean over to her friend and go, "No, that is somebody who's desperate for attention." To anybody else, that might have just been a sentence, but for me, it left a lasting impact.
Did you see that look? They're judging us.
I thought, wait, am I just desperate for attention? Is that what's going on here? Am I just needy? Am I just a show off? Is that why I do this? And I couldn't shake it out of my head. Every time I went to perform from then on, if I wanted to make a big choice, I'd go, wait, am I just being needy right now? Am I just desperate for attention? Am I being a show off? It hindered the way I performed and looked at myself for the next 8 years until I was doing a play in London and I had a real big moment and I was about to go for it and the director said, "Dom, I need more from you. I need more from you."
More!
And I was like, I mean, I would, but I don't want to be a show off, you know? I don't want to be needy for attention. He looked at me in my eyes and he said, "Then what are you an actor for? You realize there's going to be 500 people giving you their attention. Do you not want it? Also, I'm paying you to show off. Be as big as you can." And I said, okay. So my question is for you. What are those little T's in your life? What are those things that somebody maybe said or something that happened or somebody did and it altered the way you look at yourself? It altered the way you feel about yourself. What are some of those? Write those down. Okay, so now that you've written down your big T's and little t's, you're probably asking, what does this have to do with a backpack and why is it so important? Here's the backpack principle. I want you to imagine that when you were born through this journey of life, you were born with a backpack. When you were younger, wasn't really much in your backpack. Life was nice, life was easy. You were able to run around and really enjoy this journey of life. And then you stumbled across your big T. I want you to think about that like a big rock. Now what we do is we take those big T's and we put them in our backpack, carry them around with us. And then we started to have all these little T's. One here, one there. Every time we stumble on them, every time one of those little T's hurts us, we pick it up and we put it in our backpack and we just carry it around. As we were getting older, our backpack was getting a little more full. And yeah, okay, it was hard, but we still had enough room in there to be light, to enjoy life, to be hopeful. Then we got older. Things started to get harder and harder and harder. We had more big T's. We had more little T's. And we kept putting them in our backpack and putting them in our backpack until we are carrying around a massive load. And you can see people walking around. You can physically see how big their backpack is. Some people are just carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders. They're weighed down. They're saying, I'm done. I'm not excited about this journey of life anymore. It's too much. I'm carrying too much with me. It's not new. It's not fun. I don't have the energy I used to. It's because of all that they're carrying around. The thing I need you to understand is that if you are feeling this way, if you are feeling burnt out, if you are feeling overwhelmed, if you are feeling like it's too much, you need to unload your backpack. You've got to get that stuff out. How do you get that stuff out? Well, there's a lot of ways to do it. A really great way is talking about it. Remember earlier in this whole course when I said that the brain looks at approval the same way it does as a bump of cocaine, and it looks at ridicule the same way it does a punch in the stomach? When we are listened to, when somebody really stops and hears us out, that triggers the same chemical response in the brain as a warm embrace or a hug from a loved one. That's why the majority of talk therapy is just that. Talking, having someone hear you out, listen to you. That's why one of the best things you can do to help somebody out is just listen to them. We're gonna talk a lot more about that in our final section. For right now, I want you to know that just talking about things can help. But let's say you don't have anybody that you really trust to talk to. That's okay. Another great way to get it out is writing it down. Writing it on a piece of paper, journaling. There's mountains of evidence about how wonderful it is to keep a journal and get all this stuff out. Another way is expression, art, having an outlet, having a way to get these feelings out so you don't have to keep them in. Exercise, hobbies, hiking, getting out and doing things. That right there is how we start unloading our backpack. But here's the thing, just pulling it out isn't enough. Pulling it out to talk about it, pulling it out to write about it, pulling it out to sing about it. The end goal is getting to a point where you're ready to let it go. You realize there's no purpose for you to hold on to it anymore. You realize that holding on to it is causing more damage than just letting it go and being free, running around, playing, enjoying yourself. So as I mentioned, the purpose of talking or writing or expressing those big T's and little T's that you're carrying around with you in your backpack, the goal is to let it go. And there's one word or term specifically that psychologically speaking is the absolute best way to let it go. And I know this can be triggering or bothersome to some people, but I promise you, this is backed by tons of research, including a 20-year study done at both Yale and Harvard. Only way to mend damaged relationships with others or yourself is forgiveness. And what forgiveness simply means is allowing yourself to be free of whatever you're holding on to, whether that's forgiving others or forgiving yourself. So here's what I want you to keep in mind. Forgiveness is for you. It's not for them. When you hold on to a grudge, what you're really doing is you're tethering yourself to that person or that moment in time. It's up to you to make the decision to cut the tether and move on into the future. Learn from those mistakes and allow yourself to let go. I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to write down some things that you might be ready to let go. And if you're not, I'm gonna give you a couple minutes to write down some things that are maybe weighing you down that you need to address, figure out, and finally make it to a point where you're ready to let it go. Don't forgive too easily and don't forgive too quick. You have to be ready. But remember, you know you're ready to let it go when the pain of keeping it is way more burdensome than the pain of dropping it and moving on. I want to ask you the most important question that I've asked you in this whole series, but I'm going to ask you in our final chapter of this section, right after this.